Emotionally unavailable.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Melissa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together. Hello, everybody. I'm out of breath from drying off after the shower. That's a little ridiculous. Anyway, today's episode, happy Monday, by the way, is with B. Rausch. She is the other half of Social Leopards. You may remember Beth from a few months ago. Anyway, they have an amazing podcast just aimed at decreasing loneliness overall within an individual, the community, and they're very kind. And they had a snafu with their social media and had to start all over on their accounts yesterday. So when you hear this, if you wouldn't mind going and following Social Leopards, I would love you for that. B and I had a beautiful conversation as I listened to it just to make sure there wasn't anything I needed to fix. It just put me in the best mood ever. She's really sweet. I am so out of breath. Also, I just ate way too much in the last hour, so that's where I'm at in life. Sorry, B, I'm fucking your intro up, honey. Anyway, super sweet, and we had such a good conversation, and she is somebody who being in her presence just makes you feel warm and fuzzy. So I love her and Beth so much and look forward to a day where we can hang in person. So anyway, I'm going to go, catch my breath a little bit. And here's me and B.
Emotionally unavailable.
I'm good, man. I did someone else's show this morning and then immediately, even though I knew what my schedule was, popped on here thinking I was just in a flow and I was like, that was an hour ago. And I was like, well, that is so, I wonder if she's okay. And I double checked my calendar twice because I knew something was not clicking for me. Finally, it made sense to where it was like, not for another hour. And I was like, oh, what shall I do? What shall I do?
I know,
So
it's amazing.
You're kind of a chaotic version of me because for the last hour, I've just been.
No, you look great. You look great. Your voice sounds great. You sound
much better. Yeah. I stopped taking steroids yesterday. I'm still, which could just be Oklahoma allergies too, but a little congested, runny nose, but I feel great. I'd say I'm like 95%. The energy was what was crazy.
Yeah.
I've never experienced that. I mean, I haven't had the flu over the age of 40, so I didn't know. I will tell you, it's put a lot of things in perspective about like how to care for myself better to prevent. You can't stop yourself from getting the flu. That's not what I'm saying. But like, it did make me think like, oh, okay, I'm getting into like an age like risk area where like it's going to be really bad if I get these things and I have to like do a little more to boost my immunity. I never knew what people were talking about when they're like, I can't breathe. Like I was just laying there because I couldn't breathe. I was like, can't talk, can't breathe.
Oh.
Well, you look beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
How's everything going?
Well, there's a lot going on with my parents and I'm just dealing with it, but I do know that I'm not alone. I've got hospice helping me, supporting me, and, trying to sort of disconnect myself from, my sense of guilt and compassion and not let that rule, my daily, like I have to be there every single day thing. So that's where that's where I am right now.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to have you. Just for the audience, I mean, I'll do a whole intro, you know that, but you are the other half of Social Leopards. I had her on forever ago. I don't even remember when that was now. And then I got to visit with you guys for a little bit.
Oh, that was a great entry. Thank you so much.
It
I know you were like into the weather, but you still showed up, and we thought you're just
Oh,
amazing.
thank you.
Thank you so
I
much.
really had a good time. Like I wanted to be there. I was like, no, I can do this. Because as soon as you guys like popped on, like, we know you're sick. I'm like, no. If you're okay with me sounding atrocious, which I did feel guilty about, women are so weird. I felt bad because my voice doesn't sound good for your show. what? But yeah, that was so much fun. Is the whole premise, really, if you narrow down your premise for your show, you guys really are just talking and connecting around the fact that, like, as women, we can become so lonely and isolated in our own experiences.
Right.
And I think that so much of that is because of the way we were programmed as children. But is this lighting your spirit up to get to meet new people?
Yes.
And yeah, me
Yes.
too.
And just like what I said before, and I'm sure you can resonate, like the whole idea of you are not alone. And I think when we started the podcast, it was a bit after Beth had dealt with her mother taking care of her. And I think she was searching for something too. And she does the 7 cups. And I think for both of us, it was like a way to make ourselves feel better and everybody else to know you are not alone. And knowing that peace for me has been so just peaceful. It just gives me such, I know that I have a resource for my parents now. It's not perfect, but it's there, and I still can go about my life and they are supported. So I think that's huge for people to know they're never alone.
Yeah. So can I ask you questions about your friendship?
Sure.
Like, how long have y'all been friends?
So yeah, it's been a couple of years. We met before pandemic, and we had joined a women's group. We were both kind of searching for friendships, and I don't know, like I think it's like both of us were single parents, and then you're a single parent, you're taking care of your children, your child, and you don't have time to really connect, and you feel guilty. You got to be with the kid, Anyway, so there was that going on. Both of us had that. We both got remarried. She moved up here, and then I met my husband here a couple of years before I think she met hers. And then we were looking for friends because we had a moment where the kids were already on their own, right? So that's kind of how we went. We just randomly went to this women's club, and then it was funny. It was an evening. It was myself, another lady that I knew from before, and her, and no one else showed up. And we were like, oh my God, you're actually a real person. You're a real person. I can talk to you. You're not like fake. You're real. And like anything that lives,
Yeah.
the two of us are each other's almost like really like soul sisters. Like I can
Oh,
tell her.
you come off that way. I'm so surprised you haven't been friends longer. Like, you guys have a
Yeah,
serious soul connection for
that's what
sure.
everybody says when they see us. They're like, oh my God, I know we finally found each other. It took us years, but we did. Yeah, she's amazing. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have full body chills. That's crazy. Yeah, I love that. And because here's the deal is that, and I think I may have said this to her when she was on here, but there are so many people, like, looking for somebody just to be friends with. Like,
Right.
the poor little Gen Z people, especially, like, I didn't even realize until, like, I've had them as clients and I have children in that generation. And yes, there's Bumble for friends, and yes, whatever, but they're scared of it too, just like we are. So
Yeah.
it's like, what are these opportunities that we can take just to meet people? Like, let alone dating, but like
Yes.
friendship. Like,
Yes.
how do you meet people? Because, well, I mean, if you're like me too, not this version of me now, but before, I had kind of a particular brand of person that I could be friends with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they had
Right.
to be willing to accept all of me. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And at that time, that was very much chaotic. But I in hindsight, it's so funny because I used to say things like that all the time, and as I'm saying it, I'm just picturing who I actually
Mhm.
was in those moments. And
Mhm.
I was so afraid, just like everybody else. I was so afraid to be vulnerable with people and to say, like, I feel really insecure right now, and I don't know even how to initiate a friendship, because all of my friendships began with trauma dumping. Like, we did that fast track to best friends, just like when we were in 3rd grade. We may as well have been blood sisters.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and that's not a normal, healthy development of a friendship.
Right.
And it just knowing that there are people out there who are kind of showing how that can be done, and that we did it and it's good. I love that, because people need friends. That's what gets us through really hard.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the thing with my parents. It's been very interesting. So we've had all these social workers in, various caregivers, and I'm trying to. They're asking me how I feel, what's happened. They've been in this community for almost 30 years. They initially started working here, however, never connected. Now they are immigrants from Ukraine. They did have an ethnic community, but I'm beginning to think, on balance, when I look at them now, did they have a paranoia situation? Did they have a social deficit? Did they have autism? I'm really beginning to think, because it makes no sense. Their English language is fine. They have an accent, but they can do it. They're intelligent people. But I'm beginning to think that my theories, one of those is right. My mother as I look, I mean, I think she was over the years very paranoid about people because she was so, I don't think she assimilated. She got here when she was in her late 20s. She worked, they both worked, and their life was home, work, family. And it was just my brother and I, my grandparents, nothing else. And
Yeah.
the community was kind of like that. You know, the church community, of course, we had that. So I always think, had they stayed on the East Coast, would they have ended up being more supportive because they would have those people they knew?
Right.
But it's very, very, you know, it was very stressful for me because, like, I'm the oldest of two, and brother lives in Indy. He's got his kids. He started having kids late in life. They're still little, you know, elementary school and stuff. Mine's grown. She's, you know, in her 20s. But the expectation that you have kids to take care of you and fill all your needs, to me, is so triggering that I have to step back and be like, it's not their fault, you know, all the time. So
Well, it's funny. I on the show that I was on this morning, we really delved into that in like the generational shifts and how if you think about your parents' generation, what they must have suffered as children,
right.
and then what that suffering kind of held, and so much of that was that indentured servitude to your parents.
Yes.
And yeah, but see, I think that everything you're saying is so valid about their culture and assimilation and all of those things, but I also think it's generational because my grandma was the exact same way. Like she moved to Oklahoma for her husband, who was my grandpa, from like Virginia, Danville, Virginia area. And she was 15 and a half. And, and he was like 23 and, you know, military, and talked her into getting married. She told me she thought her parents would chase her and they didn't. He started abusing her on the way here. So they get to Oklahoma. He's a loser and like can't support her ever. So like they're in and out of living with her mother-in-law, who was a god awful human being to her and all of her children, ruined the lives of many people. And by the time my grandma's raising me, her second set of kids, she has no social skills, truly. She was beat down like to the lowest point by that point. And I saw her attempting confidence and things like that. But really, she never got any of that. And she had no friends. And when she finally got a job that she loved, it was at Walmart. And there were people who really wanted to cultivate a friendship with her. And she was downright hateful about it. The only way you could be in her bubble to be a friend was like during the break room, and you ask her about herself and you joke around, and you know, and she did love those people who did that, and they meant a great deal to her. They would never have known that though, ever, because
she rejected them before they could reject her.
Absolutely. And now that I understand those parts of her and I understand which parts of me are her, I get it. But I just think this is that generation of women, man.
I think you could be right. I mean, I will say with my parents, it was a semi-abusive relationship, not physically, but verbally. He's a neglectful man. And it's funny, the social worker came over. She's like, "Oh, I saw your daddy." So I'm like, "Okay, you saw that side he wants you to see. But let me tell you what happened New Year's Eve. I was not there. I was out of town. He left mom on the floor. She fell out of the bed and didn't call anyone. So why don't you note that in your notes? Because that's something that I'm worried about. That's going to happen.
That is not a reliable caregiver.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, she's like, "Okay, I have to." I said, "Yes, you have to report." And I said, "I have to be honest. And I'm not saying this to you, but I've documented this because I worry about her safety with him, you know?" And so, you know, yeah, and there's that. But you're right. And I think she also is a woman who was so traditional in cooking, cleaning, managing. She made more than he did. And he just sat there and he just took advantage of her. And now it's kind of funny, role reversal. Can't leave the house now because he's got to take care of, thinking karma's a bitch.
So true.
I mean, to be like
honestly,
that.
are there, I can't think of very many marriages of your parents' generation that weren't looking like this.
You're probably right.
And it makes me mad, but that's also why I feel this fuel to get it right for the things that they did try to do right, you know, for us to pass down the ancestral healing for the future generations and them. Let's show them what the things they tried very hard to do are not in vain. You know what I mean?
Like, and I think that's why you and I and Beth connect, because I do think like what you said exactly is right. When I talk to my daughter and say, "Honey, I promise you, mommy will not do this. She's like, I know, mom. I said, we're going to stop it with them. It's going to end with them.
That's exactly
It's
right.
not healthy to do that to people, because when you come into this life, and you decide to have a child, the children are there. For me, I have a child because I want her to contribute to society. That's been my hope. I love her. I love being with her, but I'm not there to make her feel guilty if she wants to go to Alaska, whatever she's doing. It is her life. I want to be part of it. But their whole, I think, point of having, and like the other people, children, was these people will be my people who will take care of me forever.
They will help right now. They will pick up the slack right now, and then they will be in an eternal debt of gratitude for me for their entire lives.
That is correct.
That was the part that got me the most. That was the part that triggered the shit out of me, because I was like, wait a second. See, I don't know how much you've heard of my show, and I don't remember if I told you this already, so please forgive me if I did. But like, my parents and my grandparents, like my entire extended little family network, fucking kidnapped us. Like, we were being adopted out that day.
Oh my gosh.
So not only did my mom choose to have us when she knew that my dad didn't want us, this was a funny story they used to tell, that whenever she would get pregnant with one of us, he'd be like, well, you better get rid of it. And she'd be like, okay, and go to Planned Parenthood and get the pamphlets and pretend that she went through with it until it was too late. And they love to tell me that. They love to tell me that at like 3, 5, 7, 9. Weird. Well, okay, so she has us. I am in the hospital with neglect, practically failure to thrive by 2 months old, because they are not properly caring for us. And then all of these things occur. They take us, by this time, my little brother, who's a year younger than me, wasn't born. So it's me and my older brother. We are being adopted out. My mom is pregnant because they've terminated the rights of our parents. They show up to the goodbye in the DHS parking lot and fucking kidnap us. It was a whole elaborate scheme. These days, they would be all over the news and everything.
I know.
Forgiven for this shit, okay? Now, 20 years later, when I didn't ask to be born, I didn't ask for you to raise me, and I certainly didn't ask for you to kidnap me to make sure that you raised me. I now owe you for my entire rest of my life because you raised me. This was my grandma. I mean, that was her thing. My parents were addicts. They were like, oh, baby, we're so proud of you. They didn't care. But like, my grandma was like, I lived to glorify her name. Everything I did was a reflection and an extension of her. So not only was I supposed to care for her, anything she ever needed, like, oh, you have your own life, that doesn't matter. I need this.
Right.
Or anything that your brothers, who I've developed a codependent and meshed relationship with, but no longer have the capacity to facilitate, if they need something and I can't do it, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, honey, that's not going to work for me. And I was like, golden child, now turning black sheep. And that has been my journey right there.
But I mean, you have to get to that point where you realize this is completely inappropriate, that this is not your, responsibility. And it takes time. It really takes time. It took me a long time to get to the point where, like, I was angry and, I had to grieve and had to realize that I'm okay. I don't have to do X, Y, Z. And now I think to myself, my father will complain, I can't do this. I said, you could have had her in assisted living and you did not want that. You wanted to bring her home. She has dementia. She doesn't know what day it is. She doesn't know if she's had a shower, but you are insisting on doing this. So you've got to deal with it then. That's not my job. Sorry, I'm going to go here, there, and somewhere else. And, but it took a long time to get there. And not that
it's little increments. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and it's like everything else. You make a decision and then you're going to have lots of opportunities to decide to confirm that decision.
Correct.
I mean, and I think that's okay. I honestly, I've started to just believe this is part of the purpose here on this planet, that your parents do shit, you learn to overcome it, and you get to this place where you are full of love and compassion for yourself at all times, any given moment, period. And that requires a lot of self-reflection and hearing the self-talk so that you can address the self-talk, and creating safety within your body so that whenever that natural instinct to please your parent arises, you can say, we're safe to say no. Nobody's going to die if we say no.
Exactly. But I will say this, in the past, since I wasn't familiar with this, because this is my first go round with having caregivers, since my grandparents lived 100 miles from us, they ended up dying in their sleep and they were pretty with it till the end. So we didn't experience any of this. So the social work service that we have through Medicare has been phenomenal. We've been very lucky, and they have really surprisingly supported me more than what I can say now. I know every one of those entities is different. I
Right.
think I lucked out. I researched. I got the good one, and they will report on what's happening all the time. And I've told them, please be honest. I want everything documented, because when it comes to the point where I need to make the next step decision, I will have that support, which I need. So I
Absolutely.
would encourage people to not be afraid, because people are going, oh, they're going to see this. I'm like, no, let them see it. Let them see it, because this is about quality of life for people. And if they are neglected
Yes.
and they're not being taken care of properly, people need to help them get the help they need.
Yes. Well, it's like I talked to you about before, that we get really stuck in this parent-child role. And when the roles start to reverse, it is incredibly frightening. And it shakes you. Your sense of security is shaken really to the core, because I don't want to disappoint you. I'm a little bit afraid of you. And um you don't see this dynamic any differently than when I was a child, and it very
Right.
much is. And now I have to make decisions for you because you're dumb and won't make the right one.
It's
It's
really
the key thing. When you're trying to get a person who should not be driving to stop driving, we went through that with my grandma. Oh my gosh. She got dementia there at the end. And I think it's because she had cancer that we didn't know about.
fun.
And she was
Oh,
already pretty malnourished, because she was like the 97-pound woman my whole life. So she got down to like the 80s even.
gosh, wow.
And she would just fucking get mad and start driving off somewhere, and then we'd be like, oh my god. We would check all the hospitals, all the whatever, and then she had gotten smart and started carrying around a little card in her wallet with all of our phone numbers, and she'd get
Mhm.
annoyed enough to where she's like, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing. She'd run out of gas and be like, my car broke down.
Oh my gosh.
And then and oh, so much of that period of time, like because one of the first times it happened, it was around Halloween, and I fucking hate Halloween now because of that, because it was my daughter's first Halloween.
Oh,
Yeah, it really frustrated me, because I'm like, thank you for ruining something else, and you
exactly.
feel so terrible for saying
Exactly.
that in your
No,
brain.
I
But
get
it's
it.
like my entire fucking life, and then you couldn't even let
Yes.
me have my baby's first Halloween, and now every Halloween it comes up, and I hate the way I feel,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I didn't go pick her up. I let her little golden child son take care of it, but he took forever, and I felt so much guilt, like her
I
just
know.
at a store waiting and waiting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I should have just fucking done it, because I could have gotten my night started and everything. Like that entire Halloween was just shit. And I hate it, because like, why are you driving? You knew she was throwing a temper tantrum, and then the dementia took over after she left, because she
Yep,
was disoriented. Once you
yep.
leave your environment,
Right,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? But it's all of those things. And the worst part is like, when you're talking about like daughter versus son, or in our case, granddaughter versus grandson, the worst part for me really was like, you made me the black sheep because I had boundaries, but I was the one who was there for you a lot.
Yes.
You crippled this child who was living with you at the time that everything happened. And this is the person that you pit me against our entire lives. He's nicer. He's better. He's da da da. You're mean. You're da 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 da. And then like, but who you still gonna call when you need something? Me. Because you
Exactly.
know that I can do it. And
Yes.
if it was something I felt it was appropriate, I of course would help. I'm not an evil person. It just got to where it was like, I have to say no sometimes, because I was 21 years old sitting there with my mom and my brothers and my grandma and other extended family asking me of things over and over. And I was like,
Mhm.
here's the deal. I was still like, a Christian at the time. And I was like, okay, God, here's where I'm at. Um, if this is my only purpose on this earth, I'm going to leave this earth, because I don't want to do this. I can't. I can't believe that this is my purpose either, because I have always had a very solid vision on my life. So I was like, so I know grandma says I'm supposed to say yes to all this according to God. I'm going to start saying no though. So damn me to hell if that's what has to be done. But that's the decision I'm making. And I remember I was in this apartment. I was sitting there. I mean, it was very real. I remember it very clearly because I had to decide. I don't know what's right and I don't know what's wrong, but I can't do this anymore.
You made such a wonderful, wonderful decision. I love the way you use God, but like, thank God you did that you didn't take it out on yourself, because you've read the research. Many, many caregivers commit suicide.
Yeah.
Or they die of cancer or some other disease because they get so stressed and they actually die before the people they're taking care of.
Yeah, they've neglected their own health all those times.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you had the strength, and it takes strength. That takes strength to say, I'm still a good person, even though I'm going to say no to you because it's unreasonable.
Right. I got really lucky in that, since I was raised in kinship foster care with her, I was also surrounded by social workers. And I had one that I still am very close friends with to this day, who she never told me anything to do, but anytime I did the right thing, she affirmed it. That was really good. That. I'm so proud of you for using that boundary. You know what I mean? Because Lord Jesus, with parents as addicts, I mean, my dad died when I was 15, but my mom didn't die until I was almost 22 and pregnant with my first kid. And there was so much chaos. And I would get phone calls from the ER at 2 a.m. We have your mom here. We need you to come pick her up. And I was like, okay, I'm 18. You know that I'm her daughter, not her mother. You know that. I also know her mother is on file. She created this shit. Call her mom. I'm her kid. I don't care if I'm 18 or 22. I don't want to pick her up at 2 a.m. That was another really big moment for me to be they're like, what do you want us to do with her? And at this time, you could take people to detox and let them, I was like, you can take her to detox. You can take her to jail. You can release her to the streets. Whatever you do is not my problem. She just went and did all of this shit and landed in this mess. And I love her. I'm not going to hate on her, but I'm not getting my ass out of bed at 2 a.m. to come and pick her up from the hospital. And then it be my problem to decide where the hell she's going to go.
Right. No, I agree with you. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. Wow.
Oh, it was so many tough things like that. But yeah, just having a soft presence around me just to be like, that you did a good job. No one ever told me I did a good job. Ever. The praise that I got as a child was only for things that I did to make her happy. Nothing I've ever done for myself was enough for her. So it was really nice to just be like, oh, I am a good person. Because that's what she loved to tell me, is that I had an ugly heart. That's what she would say.
Oh my God, that's really
so
cruel.
bad, right?
That's
She'd be like,
cruel.
Your heart is so ugly. Your brother's heart, he has a heart of gold. You think you're so much better than him. He's got a way better heart than you. And I'm like, I wonder why I hate him. Interesting.
Look at how amazing, and successful you are. You got to give yourself so much credit and love that you've done this. And you're amazing. You're an amazing gift. You know that.
Thank you. I mean, I've stepped into understanding exactly what I've done. It's been such a long road, but thank you for saying that. It's just, I kind of got to this place this last year after the mental health crisis where I was like, I used to really identify with the word strong, and it got to a place where I was like, yeah, I don't want to be strong anymore. I want to be soft and I'm ready to be held. That was a huge step for me because I lived in that masculine alpha energy always, from childhood, because that's what got me through, being fueled by spite and I will prove you wrong and I will blah, blah, blah. And that was the greatest gift I gave to myself, was to just lay it all down and be like, you can be held. Who you want to hold you? Go get in their arms, because, and sometimes I hold myself, obviously, but learning to ask for those things has been a beautiful experience because I am worthy of being held. I don't have to hold everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why you getting me all emotional today? My God, I'm having such a good day. That's why my emotions are all right at the front. And I don't know if you are into any of the this thing vibrates at this frequency, whatever. And a girl I know told me the other day while I was sick, she was like, okay, well, your frequencies are down, blah, blah, blah. Here's some things you can help yourself with. And I was trying, but I was so sick and it scared me. I'm like, ever going to get the spark back, you know? So one of the things she was telling me is about like coffee, how it like reduces your vibe. And so today I've been doing a lot of herbal tea, and because for my stomach, the flu wrecked my stomach too, because I have digestive.
Yeah.
I love herbal tea now. It's like my new hyperfixation. And so I was having some earlier, and I was like, you know what? I think herbal tea raises my vibrations. And I've been in such this open, good mood. And I was like, don't go get coffee, because I wanted to like feel all this with you. You know what I mean? And I just the other day with coffee, it did numb me a little bit. I was not as open.
I'm going to have to pay attention to that. It's a very interesting. I think there is something about the herbal tea. I do believe that, but that's the coffee thing. I wonder about that.
But I love coffee. I'm gonna drink my coffee, but I was like, let me see if not doing that right now will help me to stay in this. Because you know how when you connect with someone, you just feel like all the warm and fuzzies afterwards. I wanted to keep that going from the show that I was on this morning, and I was just ready to see you and excited, you know. And so I was like, don't numb yourself with coffee, Melissa. Yeah. But now you're getting like every ounce of my energy. So
I love it. I need it. I need
Good.
it. It's my vibration.
Yes. I'm like buzzing. It's hard to even keep a thought. Well, why don't you talk about kind of how you even maybe some of the stuff that you've had to tell yourself to, you know, like work through getting to where you are now?
Well, yeah, I guess like, so I don't know if we're going to have an episode on this, but I had an arranged marriage to begin with.
So
tell
me about it, please.
So yeah, so when I was in college, I was dating, whatever, doing my thing, and all of a sudden I turned 20, and Dad's like, "Oh, well, there's this guy you're going to meet." I'm like, "What guy?" "Oh, there's this guy you're going to meet. A friend of the friends. We call her the Yenta. She would like get ethnic people together." So we get introduced, and I'm like, I absolutely am not attracted to this person. She's like, "Oh my God, you're so superficial. I mean, you know, you got to give it a chance. He's going to have a good career, and you guys will have a good life. And it's not really about love." And I'm like, is this 1800? This is like 1985, 86.
Else, anyone?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and so we went through it, and he was being really manipulative. He was like crying, like, "You have to do this for me," kind of shit. And at that point, I was still not as aware as I am now.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. And I had a different direction I was going to go in. You know, I had all these ideas of what I wanted to do with my life, and he kind of got him in there. And then I moved to Chicago with him, and he's gay, suppressed homosexual. He did have a gay lover, and I knew this, and I told my dad, I'm like, you know,
you knew when you married him?
Yeah, and before this, I tell my dad, I said, "Dad, you know, I just want you to know he had a relationship with this man, and this man is a gay man." And I asked my ex-husband, like, "Well, are you gays?" "Oh, he's no." I'm like, "No, well, this man is calling you his lover. So what is going on?" Because it was a long distance relationship. I was in New York, he was in Chicago. So anyway, so I tell my father, and I was like, "Oh, that's a joke." I'm like, "It's not a joke. This is not a joke." And you know, and I'm beginning, Melissa, to think, is my reality over here? My reality testing is like, oh, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
And I started having all this panic and all this anxiety. And I can now, I'm talking about, I still remember this feeling, how I was feeling the pit, like this pit in the middle of my stomach, like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you know? But I was so into this Catholic Ukrainian faith that I went through it, you know, and as I went through it, he beat me down. Like, my confidence always made me feel
Your
like
dad or the man?
The man.
Okay.
After that, like, I'm worse because I'm not as successful.
He hated himself.
I'm not a man. And he was an only child. His late mother was a real narcissist. You know, I was learning all this as I did my master's in psychology. I was thinking all the stuff that's happening here. I started seeing case studies of it and started realizing there's something wrong with this marriage. Had many, many, many miscarriages in the beginning. And finally, I was 6 months pregnant, and I said, I am done. My kid is not going to be raised with an unhappy mother with an abusive dad. And I left. And then my life started to change, you know, after that. But it was a significant moment. It took me years to find, you know, my current husband, you know, because I was almost 11, you know.
I was like, even try, honestly.
Yes. And I had to get to that place where I was independent. I had my own, you know, my psych, you know, work was building. I was getting more professional and finally, you know, able to do that. But but yeah, that was a very defining moment. And I have forgiven my father. My mother was totally out of it. Like, she was very controlled by him, and so I don't think she knew really what was going on. She kind of didn't get that he was the wrong guy for me, and I think my
Well,
father.
and
Go
were
ahead.
your parents' marriage an arranged marriage?
Well, what happened with them was this. My grandfather wanted to get out of communist Ukraine. And my mother knew my dad socially somehow, and my grandfather knew he was in the States. So he told my mom, even though she was not into him, they were friends, write a letter to him and start getting him to think you want him so he brings us to the States. So that's how that happened. So they did not, I don't really think they loved each other.
Practically arranged.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Okay.
she was always
That makes
telling me.
sense. She's like, well, I bet you in her mind, she made herself believe that somehow she had made it easier for you. Like this situation was going to be better for you or easier than what she had had. You know what I mean?
Possibly. She did tell me throughout her life that she knew that he was the wrong guy for her, but she could not be a divorcee. She could not get divorced. She couldn't do it. So she was stuck in that situation. And I do think part of the reason she ended up getting dementia, because it doesn't run in our family, is years and years of fighting with him. At one point, he put his hands on her neck. She had a mark, she told me about this. She showed me the mark. I was at that point in Chicago and I was like, oh my God, she tried to separate from him and he was like threatening her, doing all kinds of stuff. She gave it up and she kind of just, we just sublimated everything and just moved on. But no, it was a horrible marriage. I mean, they fought every day, and it's funny, my brother has absolutely no clue. He is so out of it when it comes to that. And I don't even understand why. He doesn't get how bad their marriage was. Like, it's just so weird. He's 4 years younger than me. And since he was the boy, he got away with doing anything he wanted. And I was the one that was always like getting into trouble for everything, because
you were the second mother and you had to do all of the things. Yep.
Yeah. So, so it's just interesting, but yeah, it's been quite a journey. There were moments where I would say I was very upset about things I thought I could have done. But then I think I have this great child that I raised. And, maybe that was God's, will for me to do that and to get out of that situation, to stop the cycle of abuse.
And she gets to see that you did that. Yeah. Does she have a relationship with her dad?
But she knows who he is.
Yeah.
He's been good to her, but that's his daughter, he did remarry, and he has, so Ksenia, she's going to be 23, and he has a 9-year-old, 6-year-old, and the woman is pregnant with the third child. She's 41. And and he's 63. So figure that one out. The second kid has severe autism, developmental delay. The daughter's okay. She's pregnant with another boy. So we'll see how that works out. So yeah, so he has obviously created a whole nother life for himself with this woman. I got remarried when I was about 46. And of course, I was never going to have any more kids. And even if I could, I wouldn't, because I don't want to do that to her. Enough was done. Enough damage was done with the divorce. I didn't need for her to feel like she doesn't have, and because she has, my husband, he's very good to her, even though he has kids who are older, but he's really there for her always. And she knows that this is her home,
Yeah.
Because, when you get divorced, and there's chaos, you're going from home to home and you don't feel like you have a home. So I wanted to make sure that she knew this is always her home. So yeah, I mean, you've went through it. She's going through it. We want to make sure our kids don't have to go through that.
Yeah. Gosh, that's the thing that used to just get me all in my feels, is like, I was going to do it better for them. And I had to stop and be like, honey, you've done so much better. Have you been perfect? No. Have you done a lot wrong?
Yeah.
A lot wrong.
Yeah.
But my babies have not had shit for chaos in their life. You know what I mean? There was a little bit because we got divorced and whatever, but even that, it was so minimal in comparison to what I received. And not because I want to minimalize their experiences. They'll have a right to talk about those experiences however they want to. But in my heart, I know that for somebody who started having children at 22 with zero clue how to even exist as a human being on her own, I did a very good job. You know what I mean?
But you're so, from what you said to me, because you had these foster things, you had access to people who helped you become aware of what was happening. So I feel like even though you think you didn't know, you did. You did know,
Yeah.
and you knew what to not do. Because the same thing with me, with being in the school psych field, I would see these people that had kids. Because, I had her when I was 36. So I had years of already work. And I saw the families that were falling apart. And I saw what the moms, the dads did. And I thought, okay, this is what I need to do differently in my situation, in this divorce, to
Right.
make sure that she doesn't have that extra trauma that these kids had. So you got to see some of that too with your situation. So as long as you use that and you say, okay, this is something I shouldn't do, and you try not to do that, I think,
Right. Yeah. Like I was real committed to not creating a bunch of drama and bringing it to my kid's doorstep with my ex. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I did that all perfectly, but for the most part, my kids didn't know if I was fighting with their dad about something stupid.
Right. Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
for the most part, I did a
Exactly.
really good job at that. And, trying my very hardest to continue to do like holidays together and even now, when
Same.
Jake has his graduation this year, we will all be one big happy fucking family.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And I have no problem. Like I went to Thanksgiving at their family's house this year.
Wow.
I
That's
don't
amazing.
do Thanksgiving with my husband's family. And so they're like, you're always welcome here. And my boys wanted me to go. I went. Like, I will go.
Awesome.
I hang out with his sister still. Like, I don't have, it's just like, of course we got divorced. We met when I was a baby and, of course, like whatever. But you're right. I've always like looked back at the people that I had who knew that I was too devoted to my grandma for them to come right out and talk to me about things,
Right.
and I would have had to have cut them off because I was afraid to even talk about her to like my friend. I didn't say a word about her to anyone until like my 20s, late 20s. I then was like, my grandma's kind of mean.
You thought that they would like not understand, or what do you think? Or afraid they would reject you?
No, I was scared of my grandma.
Oh, okay.
It was that intense that I could not even bring myself. First, I couldn't even acknowledge that what she was doing was abusive. And then after, I couldn't confront it enough to be able to talk about it because she was the type of narcissist that really controlled the narrative. And so it was always, I know you're talking bad about me, stuff like that. And then the one time I did see a therapist, which I had moved out and whatever, but she literally, I had never even talked about her, never, because I knew better. Like I was like, oh, she's perfect. She's like, I know you're talking to your therapist about me. And I just laughed because I was like, okay, what? Because I literally hadn't said a word. I had started therapy to get over this one trauma that I had just gone through. And I was like, she didn't, of course, know about it. So I was like, not even a little bit have I spoken about you, but it told me so much. I didn't know where to put that information that I learned from her saying that to me, but I was like, what the fuck? And then it wasn't until I had my second kid and went through postpartum depression and was forced to then really put the boundaries down because I had nothing to give. And then my divorce started that I even would be like, my grandma has done things to hurt me a lot. Like I told my very closest friend and she was like, hallelujah. She knew. She grew up with me. She knew what a bitch my grandma was and just how controlling and whatever. But I was not willing to speak about any of that. So if you challenged that belief, I would just cut you off because that was easier to me than even confronting how afraid of her I was. Not like she beat me. She wasn't a physical punishment. It was far worse than that.
Yeah. I feel like the verbal mental thing is way worse than physical, because physical, we're going to heal from those wounds, but the mental piece will stay with us forever unless we do something about it.
Yeah, the only way that the physical abuse that I sustained from my mother and people she put around me has really impacted me is there are times when it will be triggered by a male's deep voice or something and I'll freeze. And that's really it compared to all of the things that come up every minute of every day because of the mental and emotional abuse. I mean, I did not realize how much it impacted me, but how fucked up it was for her to say that to me. That I had such an ugly heart. That started in childhood. That wasn't just like adulthood when I was saying no. That was anytime I was displeasing to her or I was a human. And, I've always been a person who, if I'm tired or I'm hungry, It's not good. You know, like I have to have space and like eat and rest. And I always fucked up when we'd go schools clothes shopping. I'd get too tired and too hungry and too overstimulated. And eventually I'd snap. I'd be trying the whole time to be perfect for her. And then eventually I'd just be like, I just fucking want to go home. And she'd be pissed every time. And it was every time, every single time, every year. And I was the burden there. Like I was like, why can't I just be nice? Why can't you make sure I had food before we left the house? And
right.
like, why can't I have a voice to say, I'm getting tired. Can we go home now?
Yeah.
But no, I have an ugly heart because I was tired and hungry and had a little bit of a tantrum. Not even a tantrum beat. Like, it was like, you didn't have tantrums with her. It was like, I like, well, I don't know, or whatever, how teenage girls, or 9-year-old girls or whatever they, but I wasn't allowed to be a human. I had to be perfect all the time.
That's really hard. That's hard. But I can understand some of that because I feel the same thing, that whole thing with the Catholic thing, which now I'm recovering Catholic. I mean, not that I'm against religion, but it didn't help me. Even with the divorce, it was like, initially it was like, I got an annulment also, which is a whole nother process, which was, let me tell you that. They were like, oh, well, you really, you can't get an annulment for verbal or mental abuse. I'm like, what? Well, there is nothing there in the, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm just coming to you, telling you that this is happening to me. And you want me to come up with a different reason. And she said, well, there was no bonding that happened in the marriage. That's what we're going to go for. I'm like, that's okay, fine. We'll do that. It took me 2 years to get it, and it was really an interesting process to see how unsupportive and how backwards the religion is. And they're just sitting there going, oh, we're losing numbers. You think?
Right. I know we're losing numbers, and there's the crux of your problem. The fact that you're counting the numbers.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember when I was, one of the things I got to do as part of that private foster care, shout out to Casey Family Program, I got to go to this really cool camp called Camp Anytown, and it was in Arizona. And I got to go twice because, well, I was always the shining star of shit because that's who I was. But so I went once as a little camper and once as a counselor and trainer. And this lady, this was my first hint at like what religion was doing to some people, because she was from the LDS faith and had gotten married like at 19 years old, all the whatever. He was abusive, and she comes to her parents and says, you guys, like, I gotta go. And they said, you made your bed, you lie in it. All because of their religious like principles.
Yep.
And I was like, damn, like it hurt me so bad, even as a little 16-year-old, to watch, because she was weeping with us,
Gosh.
And just to know that like there is any sort of faith, right? That's what we're calling this, is a faith that then gives you an out to not provide nurturing to somebody who's hurting.
Yeah.
What?
Or it's your fault. Like you made him do it. I remember this lady saying something like, oh, it's about your approach. What are you talking about? Well, maybe if you made more, dinner, you were cleaning the house better, just took care of his needs more, he won't. I'm like, no, the person's an abuser no matter what you do.
Right. Well, and your husband was fucking gay. So like he hated himself, and that was that. He had to take that out. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
What?
But
like you're being gaslit because you're married to a fucking gay guy who doesn't know how to accept his sexuality.
Yeah, and he still hasn't. He still hasn't. And I know
for this day.
Still know for a fact that there have been, even Ksenia said, she's like, Mom, I think there are moments where he's had these side things going on, but he'll never, because he was raised, he can never, he has to be hetero. He has to be, and his mom just railed that into his head. So he will never deal with it. But if you met him, 5 seconds. 5 seconds.
I'm sure. I'm so sure.
I mean,
you know what that makes me so sad is all the health implications for the women that he's fucking also.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how active your sex life was, but every time that you had to have sex with him, that was a risk to your health. And that pisses me off for you.
Yes. I mean, all the stuff. And just like he had these weird ideas, these perversions that I was just not going to participate in. So thank you, but no. So yeah. We had a very bad. You
know what, honey? That's not really for me. I did this because my fucking dad made me to. Fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a bad sex life. I'll tell you right that. It was bad. It was like, I honestly, I did not look forward to any of that. And like, again, you should be with who you should be with, but being forced on someone is, And I mean, on his half, I think he just wanted to make his mother happy too. I'm not sure that he was really into it as well. I think he was also, so to be fair, I think it was both of us. Like,
Absolutely.
so,
Everybody was miserable, clearly, but
yeah,
man, this is the type of stuff that we in your 40s, 50s, 60s, it doesn't matter. You have to reclaim your innocence and reclaim your womanhood all at the same time. And that is how we offer the healing. You know what I
yes,
mean?
yes, yeah,
Just
yeah.
really stepping into that.
Yeah, and I think it's being vulnerable. You talked about this before. We
Yeah.
talked about it a lot. I think that's tough for people. That was one of the things, Beth and I had discovered with friendships, as you get older, people are so afraid of really being who they are. And if you make them uncomfortable, they will run away because you've gotten too close. You've gotten too close and they want to keep hiding it. They're not ready.
Yes. I was talking about this on that show that I was on this morning about just like, she said, well, why do you think we have such a hard time being vulnerable like that? And I thought about it, and I think it's because those women, like we were talking about earlier, I mean, they told us we had to be superhuman, like, and, and, and I think what they were saying was, please go be all of the things I haven't been able to do, that I haven't been able to be. Like, in their way, they were trying to tell us, like, you have more opportunity, more strength. Like, maybe if I make you tougher, you won't be in a situation like I'm in. You be tough. And I don't know a lot of women that weren't taught you need to be stronger than that. You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
I understand men have their own machismo, misogynistic bullshit, but we were given that shit too.
Yeah.
Like, not only you need to be tough, but also feminine and soft and fuck your husband anytime he wants and make sure that the dinner's done. And he's not going to help with the kids because that's not really his job.
Right.
But go ahead and get the kids all squared away and then be beautiful and pleasing and whatever. And make sure you're putting out. If you're not putting out anything that you receive in retribution, you deserve. So just know that. And you can do all that, right? And I'm like, well, fuck, no wonder what if society was built on A, making us hate ourselves, and B, comparisons to make us hate ourselves, why am I going to go admit my deepest, darkest shame to anyone? I'm going to say to you, I'm failing, I feel, at being everything to everyone. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm in competition with you. I don't give a fuck if we're friends or not. And that is subconsciously how we are viewing other women because we were taught to, because that's how they make money off of us. If they can make us hate ourselves and hate each other, that's how they put us in the situation that we are in right now, is because we hate each other.
Oh my gosh,
the way we tear each other down is god awful.
It is. And I have to tell you something too, like, this is interesting. So my ex-husband's mother, or whatever, she had a cousin. This guy was such a piece of work. It still triggers me. So he was such a misogynistic prick. When he would come around, I would be like, so just, like I couldn't stand it. To check out what he does, he marries this beautiful woman who's 25 years younger than him. He cheats on her constantly. They end up having 2-3 kids together. She ends up getting uterine cancer because of him and dies.
As the HPV that they didn't know about?
Yes. And I'm thinking, oh my freaking God. And they were always exonerating him, how great he was. And I'm just like, oh, it made me so angry, to hear that thing. And she, like you said, probably didn't know what to do, had no one to turn to. And like,
no.
And she sacrifices for this guy, and then she dies before him.
Absolutely. Do you know how common that story is? And it's disgusting. And the fact that we are so afraid to tell somebody that we're not perfect because that's what we've been taught we have to be. That's the root right there. I mean, all of my shame, all of it, this appearance based stuff where, I mean, my grandma really was like, people can't know. You got, your name is your bond, and blah, 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 blah. All of that, your name's all you got, and it's all that matters. Blah, 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 your name. Fuck you. Fuck off. Let me live, And that was like, I mean, gosh, I remember watching one of my friends go through some shit with a teenager of hers. And I all I could think was, I would not be able to tell her if this was me and that was my child. behaving like that, I would have nobody to fucking talk to, because you don't tell people when your kids are fucking up. You know what I mean?
That's true.
I was told that explicitly. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I was taught that, you know, like that was about you. Like, you don't tell people. People could not know when your kids are fucking up, because that is a direct extension and reflection of you. And now my middle kid, he's done so much bullshit. He has done so much fucking bullshit. And I don't speak about things publicly because I have he has a right to his own privacy.
Right.
But like, we were getting his hair cut a couple weeks ago, and he knows that the girl cutting his hair, we're friends, you know, we're friendly, we know each other, I love her. She's not someone I talk to outside of this, but I love her, you know. Well, he is in an alternative school now, and it's been beautiful for him. It's the best thing we've ever done. Too bad it's like the last few months of school of his school career, but still we did it and it's good. But afterwards, she had mentioned school and he wanted to say, but he didn't know how I felt and whatever. And I said, Jake, I don't give a fuck what you tell people. This is your story. Like, you say whatever. I didn't say anything because that is your right to decide who you share your life's details with. He doesn't fucking care if I tell people he's in alternative school, so I don't mind saying that. But I do have people that I go and I talk to about the experiences that I've had with him, but that is new for me still, just in the last couple of years. Like, there were things he did as a child that I was very closed mouth about because of my own fucking shame, because it was all my fault.
It's not.
You know? And it was
It's
baby, the baby's on the spectrum. He's so fucking ADHD. Like, he's so neurodivergent. Like, none of this is your fault. This is just a situation to deal with.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, deal with it. This is your baby. Deal with it.
Yes. Everyone's got their thing with their kids or whatever. And yes, we have to look at it that way, problem solving. And that's the one thing that I think that's my biggest strength is problem solving, you know, because let's see where we are right now and let's see where we can go, rather than like, why did this happen? It's my fault. No, it doesn't matter. We're just moving on.
Absolutely.
Everybody can be successful. Everyone can be. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 30 years, and I have seen so many kids that I started with when they were 5, and they have become amazing. They become amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and this is what I was talking to somebody else about the other day, like, who's struggling with their teenager. I'm like, here's the deal. You want to respond like that because you're leaning into your own fear and your own shame. What does this say about their future? What does this say about my future as their parent? None of that fucking matters. Stop. Be present. Understand it's done. The moment is over. How can you take one step forward without catastrophizing, without assuming worst case scenarios? Because when we sit and we lean into the fear and we're like, oh my God, what if they do that? Because I'm not afraid to say he's had an issue like abusing substances. That I don't believe is a current behavior, but you know, what the fuck do I know? So it was a big deal and I was scared. But I was like, well, what am I going to do? Sit around just assuming that he's now going to become my older brother who like is a schizophrenic homeless person? Well, I started to think maybe I fucking manifested some of this by being so fucking worried that this was the path he was going to go down, because it wasn't a surprise to me at all when it happened. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start making positive assumptions, because what do I know? I don't know shit about this. I don't know. I spend a lot of time worrying or being afraid of what might happen. What if I just shut the fuck up and let this child be a human? And that's what I'm always saying to him, is like, baby, that was some real human shit you did. That was real human shit. That's okay. How can we move forward? What's the step we can take after that?
Yes. Let me support you. Yeah.
Yes. Because you know what? I'm not going to make every fucking thing about me the way she did, you know, because it's not about me. That's been the most beautiful gift to give myself in all aspects of life, is to say, this is my world and you're all just living in it. But I understand you have your own world.
Exactly.
And I'm orbiting it. You know what I mean?
That is brilliant. That's exactly right. It's not about me. That's your issue, but I can be here, help you. I can talk to you, but that's not my issue. It's yours. Yes. And I think that's a big thing too, that I learned, like, whatever expectations I have for myself are different than for my parents. And there was a long time where, like, oh my God, why don't they want this? Why don't they? I'm like, because they don't. They're happy with what they have, and I have to be okay with it. And it's different for everyone. We are all very different.
Well, and I didn't think, I'm just going to be really honest. Somebody, like my beautiful cousin, forced me to purchase the Mel Robbins Let Them book. And I'm so glad she did, because I didn't think that I would benefit from it, because I felt like I was really solid in that philosophy myself, you know? Well, I'm on like chapter 3 right now of the Audible. And I'm like, oh God, okay, that's funny because those two words are such good, like pop in your brain, like, well, let them, like let them have their own values, let them have whatever, and then let me decide how I'm going to move accordingly. And it's not that that's a new concept for me, but when you put it in such like a simplistic way, your subconscious loves that shit. So it'll reach for it really easy. So like you said 3 things that I was like, yeah, let them, fuck it, let them. Because how much of our lives did we spend not letting us and trying to control the them part of everything just to feel safe.
Just to feel safe. You're right. That's about safety. And also, like, I think anxiety and all that stuff is all linked in there. Like when this whole thing happened with my parents, I was like, what am I going to do over here? And I was like, okay, let's be realistic. Let's stop catastrophizing. It's not as bad as what I'm thinking. Just take one day at a time. Let's think about today, not 5 days. Let's think about today.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I was raised in the like 12-step world, right? Because my mom, bless her heart, she tried. She really did try. But she'd take me to meetings with her and shit. That was our bonding time. And everyone always said one day at a time. And I really felt like I understood what that meant until this last year. And like where, especially I'm living in this surrender of like, I have no idea how any of my dreams are going to come true. I'm solid in the belief that they will, but I am just working through everything day by day, and how it means to live in the moment as much as you can. Get out of your brain and don't be in the past. Don't be in the future. Be right here, right now, paying attention to what is right in front of you. And I just did not understand that at all.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, for sure. One day at a time. It's a beautiful philosophy for sure. But I don't really know what that means. I know we hit the hour, so I can talk forever. So I didn't want to.
Good. No, we just start, people start getting confused as to where you are and forget. And then they start, sending you text messages.
I hear you. I forget a lot with my little 3 children. Actually, the baby doesn't have a phone yet. Well, she has like one of my old phones, but she can play around with at home. But I'm so thankful that I don't get those from her yet, because 2 is enough. Of like, Mom, and the oldest is 22. And I'm like, guys, but he moved home, in August to go back to school. And I love it. I do. But it's also like, I wasn't really ready to take you back on. Like, to be like, needed by you. But that's fine. That's fine. We can do that. Me being all quiet because he's in the next room and can hear every word I'm saying. But yeah, no, I this idea of presence is really just it's really sitting with me so much differently, even in this last week. I think I told you I was creating that course, Surviving the Shit Show, and like building your inner world.
Yes.
And the world is crumbling around you. And I've been working really hard on this workbook for it this week. So I've been immersed in that content. And I'm just like, it really does just boil down to, how do I live as many moments as I can, very intentionally.
I'm very much looking forward to buying that workbook or getting it, because I always need help with that. That's like a daily struggle for me. I have good days and bad days. I mean, I'm sure all of us can say that, but you have to have that right mindset and remind yourself every day. And I do like meditation at night before I go to bed to help myself sleep. I used to have a lot of nightmares and I don't anymore. And I do like a beach meditation for myself. But I have to remind myself all the time that, I have to slow down and just focus on today, not tomorrow, but today. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And I think for me, it was, I would, even though I felt like I wasn't overthinking, I was living just kind of normal. I would get to the end of a couple of weeks and be like, my energy's off. What is that? And it's because I was on autopilot. Like, maybe I've gotten so good at being out of my head.
Yes.
I was on autopilot, just living life, not in a bad way, but I'm like, where's my joy? Where's my peace?
Yes.
My love?
Yes.
So that's what made me create the first Building Emotional Hygiene, like a little 2-week course, because I was like, I want this for myself. I want to make sure I'm living intentionally. And that's my gift, is that I figure something out for me and I share it with others, And so that's why I'm doing this thing, because I'm doing it for me. Because like, damn, I got to build my inner world up, because the world around me is definitely fucking crumbling and I got to figure it out, because I can't I want to be an activist. I really do, but I don't have the capacity for that. I have to active for my life. Like I'm still fighting for myself every day to make sure that my existence is the existence I want.
Yes, yes.
And I will use this show to talk about issues that I'm, passionate about. I don't have an off limits topic. I just have like a side that I take. And so like I wouldn't do a debate or something, but I do plan to use this show more to speak my opinion on some things, but like I can't be out there that being my thing because I have to be very protective of my inner world. I'm always going to have to be because of my extensive history of childhood trauma. Like
Yeah.
I'm never going to be able to be in that survival place, which is what it is, even though the people who are doing the work out there and really just using their voice for that specifically, even though it's beautiful and it's great, they are having to destroy a piece of themselves to do that. And I honor that journey for them. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that somebody out there is doing it because I can't right now. I hope that one day there will be some sort of platform that I can do all of that advocacy work through that doesn't deplete me of myself. But right now I just can't. And so I saw someone say it really great where like sometimes that's the best thing you can do is just make sure your world's okay, because that's where the change starts anyway. I tell all my clients, when you change, the world around you changes.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I have loved this. Thank you so much for coming on. Sorry I had to reschedule you.
No, it's fine.
I'm grateful for your gracious ability to just flow with that and allow.
I love these conversations we have. We're so, if you live closer, I think the three of us would be hanging all the time.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? But I want to, where do you live again?
We live in Indiana, West Lafayette area.
Yes, that's not that far. Like, there's no reason I can't come. Like, we could do so much fun stuff together. We could co-host an event. I mean, seriously,
so fun.
I would do that. I would do it.
So awesome.
And because that's not, I can drive there. There's all kinds of stuff. I am so serious. So I'm April's a really big month for me, but if you wanted to start looking at anything after that, I am so open to anything. And I feel like your people, like I would vibe with really well, like the people who are you know what I'm saying? So yes. Y'all just tell me, man, Indiana is not far. Like 100% I will drive there.
Awesome. Yeah, we have to think about something like that. I think it'll be great. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and do y'all do human design at all? Because I'm a generator. I need one of y'all to be a manifester because I am not good at initiating all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of between. I'm probably more of the manifester, and I'd say that Beth is more of the generator because I'm the one that I can organize and I can get stuff done. But we could figure it out. Yeah.
Perfect. I know that I'm being led to step into more of a facilitator and leader role, and I'm trying really hard to do it. I'm probably offering a little more resistance than I need to, but I'm trying. I maybe I just feel like I'm not good at it, and maybe I am. I don't know, but I'm not like the first idea person. Give me a template and I can make it great. I can come up with some really good stuff from someone else sparking the idea.
Yes.
But that's why I'm like, if you have anything, give me the idea. We'll run with it, because I am creating a social circle out there, something I can feel a lot of good energy about us doing something.
Oh, I think so. I think it'll be amazing. Yeah.
Whatever you feel like the need is, I can hop right in and we will figure it out.
Okay.
Yay!
That's so fun.
Yes, I'm excited. And obviously just hang out,
Yes, awesome.
Fun times. All right. Well, I hope you have a fabulous Friday. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you. Take care.
Keep in contact.
Well, do it. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Emotionally unavailable.
Hey, what do you say? Listen, first and foremost, please make sure that you have provided this podcast with a 5-star rating on whichever platform that you are listening. If you want to support the show, please rate, like, and share. Also comment, and share on any social media posts that you see from me on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. Please follow the podcast Facebook, Emotionally Unavailable Podcast. You can shop my fun online store or schedule a one-on-one with me at emotionallyunavailablepodcast.org. I'm offering what I'm calling non-traditional counseling, astrology readings, and tarot readings. And thank you so much for listening to the Emotionally Unavailable Podcast.
Emotionally unavailable. Emotionally unavailable.